From right here in Elizabeth, New Jersey, hello everybody. It's your DJ Crazy Tom giving a special YouTube edition. Usually I would put this in my Crazy Tom show, but considering I have a ton to do, and especially with the fact I'm going to be taking care of a lot of semi-pro business over the weekend, I'd figure I'd share with you Crazy Tom's 2013 NFL picks from right here in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I'm actually waiting for a run that's starting a little bit later, so I figured, hey, why not share with you here? So, having said that, of course, I'll be checking out the season opener, Baltimore at Denver, which is guaranteed to be a great showcase between Joe Flacco and Peyton Manning. And of course, the Monday night games, the Eagles, of course, playing the Washington Redskins, and I think Oakland plays San Diego in the other game. I cannot believe NFL is back and everybody is ready for some football. Of course, I'll be ready Sunday night while I'm on the road coming back from Memphis as the Cowboys play the New York Giants in the Sunday night game. I'll be talking about all the teams and what I think is going to happen as we move along. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and start this off. Let me begin in the AFC East, and it just seems like another year, another division title for the Patriots. I actually see that still happening, although Miami has gotten a bit better, and Buffalo, oh come, E.J. Manuel, you may be holding Orchard Park ransom captive. But I hate to say this, the Bills still aren't that good enough of a team, and the Jets, well, start laughing. You're the next, I'll say, probably one of the three worst teams in the NFL right now, and your ownership is an absolute joke. The Royal Tannenbaums might be singing "Oh Tannenbaum" to Rex Ryan when the bomb is dropped at the end of December. So it's pretty much the same old. I have the Patriots 11-5, Miami 9-7, Buffalo 6-10, and the Jets 4-12. And by the way, I will run across each of my predictions one more time at the very end, so do stay tuned for that. In the AFC North, well, it's going to be a much different division this year because no more Ray Lewis and no more Ed Reed for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, you have to understand, this is going to be a much different defense compared to past years. Yes, Ray Lewis had no gas left in the playoffs, but still, Joe Flacco saved them. Will he bring the Ravens to a division title? I don't necessarily think so. I think the team to beat in the AFC North is, believe it or not, Cincinnati. I think they're young, they're hungry, and they got a pretty good defense to go with that. The last 2 years, they lost in the wild card round to Houston, in Houston both times. I think they win a playoff game and maybe even more possibly in 2013. We'll have to see. Pittsburgh, you know, it's hard to tell what the Steelers are going to be like. Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, he's been hit with everything and even the kitchen sink, whether it be on the football field or off. You wonder how much more he has left. It's going to be a major key to see how healthy Roethlisberger stands put. Now, as far as the Cleveland Browns, well, they're the Browns. What do you expect? Another year, another ho-hum. And the Ravens, like I said, they're going to be a different club. Joe Flacco, I still think has a good year, but the way I look at this right now, I look at Cincinnati at 10-6, winning the North. Pittsburgh and Baltimore tied for second at 8-8 with the Steelers getting the tiebreaker, and Cleveland finishing at 6-10. In the AFC South, the trendy pick, and I'm going to go with them, is the Houston Texans. Now, I know Andrew Luck has played 1 year for Indianapolis, but this is going to be a sophomore year, and trust me, people are going to be more ready for Andrew Luck than ever before. The same can be said about Seattle's Russell Wilson, but we'll get to him a little bit later. The Colts are a better team, but Houston has been incredibly disappointing the last couple of years. This might be their last shot. Now, of course, you know that the Houston defense has been disappointing. The addition of Ed Reed is going to be huge because he's going to add much-needed leadership to a defense that desperately needs it. And now that Ed Reed has won not one, but 2 Super Bowl titles with the Ravens, he would like to have that third ring with the Texans, and I think that's going to be an enormous difference for Reliance Stadium this year. I have Houston winning the division at 12-4. I think the Colts take a step back at 9-7, but look out for Tennessee. They may actually be a nice team toward the end of the year. I don't think they're playoff savvy, but I could see Tennessee finishing 8-8. And Jacksonville, well, every year they seem to rebuild, so go with the Jags at 5-11. And finally, in the AFC West, you're looking, obviously, the trendy pick being the Denver Broncos. Now, Denver, of course, you got Peyton Manning. Yes, you'll win the division title, but will you win a conference championship? Peyton Manning has struggled in the playoffs many, many years, and prime example, of course, was the matchup against Baltimore in the division playoff last year, which Baltimore, of course, won in double extra time. Of course, a Hail Mary pass to a Jacoby Jones did the trick in the final minute, which caused the game to go to extra time, and then Manning throws that interception, and you kind of know what happened from there. Keep your eye on the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's because they have a much better coach now in Andy Reid. I think Andy now, considering all the turmoil he's had in the last few years in Philly, especially with his personal life with the loss of his son last year and still being knucklehead enough to coach there, the Eagles last year were a team that won 4 games by a combined 6 points. Now, Kansas City, I think, is going to be a better team than that 2012 Eagles squad. Plus, they're a younger team, and I think Reid has the people in position. But how many times will you hear Reid say in the postgame, I got to do a better job? Get used to a lot of it, Kansas City, in the early going, but I don't think your season's going to be a complete loss. Now, as far as the Oakland Raiders and San Diego Chargers are concerned, yes, the Chargers, they're old, but they still have Phillip Rivers, who's pretty good. And Oakland's young and hungry, but they're the Raiders until further notice. So my record right now, Denver 11-5, Kansas City 7-9, and Oakland and San Diego tied at 6-10, with the Raiders, believe it or not, getting the tiebreaker. So this means I have Houston as the 1 seed. There'd be a tiebreaker for second between New England and Denver, both at 11-5, but I have New England as the 2 seed on the tiebreaker, Denver the 3 seed, Cincinnati, the division winner of the AFC North, the 4 seed, with the wild cards as Indianapolis 5 and Miami 6, Indianapolis getting that tiebreaker. Now let's go to the NFC, which I think is going to be a pretty interesting and very competitive division. Now let's start with the East. Now, I still think, even though the team's a little bit shambled, I still think the New York Giants are going to win the NFC East, and there's a reason. You realize if the game's on the line, there's under 2 minutes left, you're in New York, you will always succeed, and Eli Manning just about all the time does that. So I think because of that intangible leadership difference, Eli will lead the Giants to a division title. The Redskins will be in second because RG3, Robert Griffin, I gotta tell you, I mean, he had a sensational rookie year, but this is his sophomore year, and he's coming off a major injury in which he probably should have never played in the wild card game against Seattle. It'll be interesting to see if Griffin changes his stance on a bunch of things, because you have to understand, if you're a running quarterback, your success is only going to last so long. Michael Vick was able to adjust and actually had a couple of pretty darn good years. But the key for Robert Griffin is to not be like Michael Vick and play a full 16-game season. Remember, I think he did that, but the problem is he really wore down toward the end, and that should be something Redskin fans better worry about. Now, the Eagles, I think this is going to be a different team. It's going to be an exciting team, but Chip Kelly, I think he's the wild card and the most intriguing of the new coaches in the NFL. I think he realized that because Oregon would never win a national championship, it wouldn't be good for marketing, he decided to bolt the Ducks and go for the Eagles. Now, I think his system can only last so long, so I truly think the Eagles, they're going to surprise a few people, but I don't think they're going to be good enough for playoff contention, but I do think they will have a better year than last year. And as for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sorry. 2 things make them the worst team in football. Number 1, the owner, Jerry Jones, who had the nerve to stab Cowboy fans in the back and put naming rights on his stadium, now AT&T Stadium, which makes 3 AT&T landmarks in the sports business outside of AT&T Park in San Francisco and the AT&T Center in San Antonio for the Spurs. Now you have the AT&T Stadium for the Cowboys, and trust me, Cowboys fans cannot stand it. Number 2, the fact that even though the Cowboys have a young defense, the wild card is Mr. Napoleon blown apart himself. That is Tony Romo, the only player in all of sports today that get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to blatantly lose games. He has handed Super Bowls to the Giants at twice, believe it or not. He's handed a division title to the Washington Redskins. He will stab you in the back. And that is why the Dallas Cowboys will be the worst team in football. And trust me, I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan. They will suffer this forever punishment until Romo is gone. So that's why I say the Giants will win the division. division at 10-6, Washington 9-7, the Eagles 6-10, and the Cowboys 3-13. And they will deserve every single loss of it. Now, as far as the NFC North, I do think we'll have a little surprise. It will be time for the Detroit Lions to win a division, and they will, I think. I think Detroit has a lot of firepower. Their defense is a nasty defense. They will win the division if they play discipline and not make so many 15-yard penalty mistakes. Just ask that guy, Sue, because he has done some very terrible things over the years. He cannot afford to get himself suspended. The team has to play discipline-wise. If they don't, they're a wild card pretender, and Green Bay will win. If they just stay within the framework of respect for themselves and their opponent and play their style of football without any stupid mistakes being made whatsoever, I think the Lions win the division. The Packers won't be far behind. They have Aaron Rodgers, but they're not the same Packer team. Minnesota, I think, will be a little better, but Adrian Peterson just better shut up, because I don't want to hear him saying he's going to surpass Emmitt Smith in 2017. Get through one game at a time. Otherwise, they may assign the worst offensive line in NFL history, and Peterson might get whacked and shorten the season and what have you many, many, many times over. And the Chicago Bears, they will be sorry they fired Lovie Smith. I mean, they won 10 games with him, and he got fired last year. They will be punished for that crime in 2013. So what I have right now, I have Detroit at 11-5, Green Bay 10-6, Minnesota 7-9, and the Bears, bear down, 6-10, unfortunately. My apologies, Casey. Anyway, the NFC South. I think this is going to be a more competitive division than you think, and I don't think the team that wins the division will win more than 10. I still think the Atlanta Falcons will win the division because of Matt Ryan, but you have to remember, they basically gave the Super Bowl, actually the NFC title, to the San Francisco 49ers. I still think the game was totally crooked, because I'll tell you what, if Atlanta had won that game, Baltimore would have never beaten New England. It would have been Atlanta-New England Super Bowl if Atlanta had won, but you know how marketing goes, and that's kind of why Atlanta, I think, handed the game over to San Francisco. Remember, in back-to-back weeks in the playoffs, they had huge leads. They handed one over to Seattle, somehow miraculously won, but couldn't do the same thing with San Francisco. Look back on the final few minutes and those questionable play calls at the end, and that will make you think, why did they make those calls? And especially when you're trying to throw a Hail Mary that only goes 20 yards, I'm sorry. Something is decidedly wrong here. The Carolina Panthers, if Cam Newton continues to mature, it's going to be a nice club. But Cam Newton cannot be RG3 or Michael Vick in his younger years. He's got to play a steady quarterback and make minimal mistakes. If he can do that, Carolina, I think, has a chance to possibly contend for the playoffs. As for New Orleans, Sean Payton is back. Maybe he did turn the lights off at Super Bowl 47, the cost of delay for 40 minutes. We don't know. Maybe that was his parting shot. Now he's back. He has Drew Brees, but who else does he have? I think it's going to be a troubling year for the Saints. And as far as Tampa Bay goes, yeah, they're still building. They may have a nice year on their hands, especially on defense, but I still believe that they still have a little ways to go. I think that it's going to be a pretty closely contested division. I got the Falcons 10-6, Carolina 9-7, New Orleans 8-8, and Tampa Bay 6-10. And as far as the NFC West goes, I'm sure a lot of my class of 1990 friends at Hamilton West, which happens to be Eagles fans, and probably the number 2 fan club are the Seattle Seahawks. That's Dean and Joe and a bunch of other people, Jeff especially. I got to say this much. Russell Wilson has been an incredible quarterback, but I'll tell you what, he may struggle in his second year, but what you have is a relentless, aggressive defense, and I think it's better than San Francisco's right now, and I think the Seahawks will win a neck-and-neck division with the 49ers, but I think the 49ers are definitely going to be on their heels for the wild card. Now that teams have had almost a year to prepare for Colin Kaepernick, we'll see if he can jump over the candlestick in the last year for the 49ers at Candlestick Park before they move to that Levi's Center, whatever it's called, their new stadium next year. Now, the other two teams, St. Louis, the Rams, Jeff Fisher, I think, did a nice job last year. I think Sam Bradford might come around a little bit more this year, so I think Fisher will piece things together, and I think the Rams are going to be decent. But the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think are going to be decent. I think they'll be cellar dwellers. And you wonder how much longer Larry Fitzgerald's going to take being in the cellar. You can say all you want, being paid all that money as one of the best receivers in the game. But you might want to get one of the best quarterbacks in the game, like a few years ago when you had Kurt Warner, and you almost won the Super Bowl 4 years ago. So I'm looking at Seattle going 12-4, San Fran 11-5, St. Louis 8-8, and Arizona 4-12. I will run down, and by the way, as far as the rankings are concerned, I have Seattle 1 and Detroit 2. They'll be the ones with the byes. Ranked 3 and 4 respectively are Atlanta and the Giants. I think Atlanta will get the 3 seed on a tiebreaker. The Giants will be 4th. The wild cards, San Fran will be 5th, and 6th will be Green Bay. So kind of funny how San Fran and Green Bay, the two teams that played in the divisional playoff last year, will be the ones in the wild card hunt as far as 2013, at least in my opinion. Now, I'll run down the records one more time and give you my Super Bowl 48 pick, the MetLife Super Bowl 48, the Meadowlands. The East again for the AFC, New England 11-5, Miami 9-7, Buffalo 6-10, and the Jets 4-12. In the AFC North, Cincinnati 10-6, Pittsburgh and Baltimore both 8-8, with Pittsburgh getting the tiebreaker, and Cleveland 6-10. In the AFC South, I have Houston 12-4, Indianapolis 9-7, Tennessee 8-8, and Jacksonville 5-11. And the AFC West, Denver will be 11-5, Kansas City 7-9, Oakland and San Diego both 6-10, with Oakland getting the tiebreaker and San Diego settling for the cellar. So again, the division winners in order of ranking: Houston, New England, Denver, and Cincinnati. The wild cards, Indianapolis and Miami. Now, as far as the NFC, once again, the East, the Giants 10-6, Washington 9-7, the Eagles 6-10, and the Cowboys 3-13. Mark my word on it. In the North for the NFC, Detroit 11-5, Green Bay 10-6, Minnesota 7-9, and Chicago 6-10. In the South, Atlanta 10-6, Carolina 9-7, New Orleans 8-8, and Tampa Bay 6-10. And in the NFC West, Seattle 12-4, San Fran 11-5, St. Louis 8-8, Arizona will be 4-12. So ranking by division will be Seattle, Detroit, Atlanta, and the Giants 1-4, with the wild card San Francisco and Green Bay. Now, as far as my Super Bowl 48 pick is concerned, it is looking like the AFC will be the Houston Texans. They will beat the Denver Broncos in the AFC title game, and I think Peyton Manning will throw a fatal interception, which will be the last time Peyton Manning will see a playoff spot in his NFL career. So I think Peyton Manning will be desperate, but I think Houston will come through and represent the AFC in Super Bowl 48. As far as the NFC goes, I expect Seattle to beat Green Bay in the NFC title game. How ironic of what happened last year with that, shall we say, the Fail Mary, when replacement officials gave Seattle the win on a blown call in the end zone. How ironic would that be to see the Seahawks beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game? Let's say Green Bay scores the game-winning touchdown in the AFC title game with no time left, but then a holding call is made, and that takes away the touchdown, and the game is over. So look for a Houston-Seattle MetLife Super Bowl 48 at MetLife Stadium come early February. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and hopefully this 2013 NFL season will be absolutely crazy, just like your DJ Crazy Tom. Thanks for watching.